Week 8 of fantasy football is in the books, and now we have 10 players to talk about after we adjusted our rest of season rankings. Who is on the rise? Who is skyrocketing up? Danny, I'll let you get it kicked off with a guy that was on a winless football team before this week and now is on a winning football team.
Yeah, Breece Hall and the Jets upsetting the Cincinnati Bengals probably ruined a lot of your guys' survivor picks, but we just saw signs of life, man. I mean, whether it's Justin Fields getting the motivation after the benching, we heard, the press conference after the fact, a Jets team that played with arguably the most life we've seen from them across the entire year. Breece Hall, he's getting similar usage, I would say, to previous weeks. But the fact of the matter is we saw him displayed as a pure rusher. We hadn't really seen this type of efficiency. We hadn't really seen this type of explosiveness in these last few weeks. We caught a glimpse of just what Breece Hall actually is.
Yeah, I didn't really move him too much because I was already like a smidge above market on him anyways. So all I really ended up doing was kind of moving him up into the tier with like the Judkins, the Kyron, the Genty, those type of guys. Now he's at the back of that tier as opposed to the head of the next tier. But the good news for Breece Hall is we've seen this now 4 times. When he has a good matchup, he'll play well. That's pretty much what's happened. We played well against the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Dolphins, and then in this game against the Bengals. When he has good matchups, the Jets offense can move the ball consistently. He will play well. And I would say the biggest reason why he would be a riser and the biggest reason why you might be excited now that you have Breece Hall is if the Jets are going to be competitive. They don't need to win 5 games for the rest of the year. They could win 2 more games for all I care. If they're going to be competitive, if they're going to be like the Saints and keep every game close and that kind of thing, then you would feel pretty good that Breece Hall is going to have a better opportunity to catch some passes, to get red zone opportunities and that kind of thing. So Isaiah Davis was really involved in the receiving aspect specifically of the Jets offense, but Breece Hall was consistently getting, yards on the ground and, breaking off chunk plays and that kind of thing. We know what Breece Hall represents, and there still is the opportunity that he would get dealt to another team, but I do think he'll probably stay with the Jets.
Yeah, 40+% of the routes in all but one game this year. We didn't really see that factored in terms of his receiving line, but we also note that, he was just so strong as a rusher. Isaiah Davis, as we saw, 5 catches, 44 yards, I believe was the posted receiving line. There's going to be weeks where Breece Hall does take more of that mantle.
Yeah, and in the games without Braylon Allen this season, because Braylon Allen went down, I believe it was in week 4, and then heading into week 5. He has 14 carries, 21 carries. He had 10 carries last week, but he did miss like 2 drives dealing with an injury in week 7. And then in week 8 this week, he had 18 carries. So I think the groundwork is something that is trending upwards for Breece Hall. The targets are down a little bit from what they've typically been, but maybe that'll adjust itself as the season goes along. So Breece Hall probably got to be a riser in this situation. Unfortunate situation in New York is that Cam Skattebo goes down for the year, and I would imagine this is going to be a long road of recovery back for a day 3 running back who doesn't have anything guaranteed in this league, who is having a breakout rookie season. It sucks, but we have to talk about Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah, you're not wrong, man. My heart goes out to Skattebo. I was mentioning this to you, Corey, but I go on Twitter right after I watch the injury on my TV, and Twitter algorithm. The first thing I see is a picture of Skattebo with his dad prior to the game, like hugging each other. Dad's got the jersey on. It's heartbreaking situation for the family, but we got to talk about it from a fantasy lens. And Tyrone Tracy profiles as an every week RB2 moving forward because of it.
Yeah, he was the clear RB1 when Skattebo went down. 64% of the snaps, 56% of the attempts, 55% of the routes, and a 16% target share. Keep in mind that when this happened, the Eagles were winning the game pretty comfortably. So we could even see in closer game scripts, Tyrone Tracy be more involved than what we saw once he got out of the backfield there. Obviously, in waiver talks, he's going to be the biggest ad, maybe of the season, let alone of this week. Like, he might be up there with when Trey Benson got the starting job for Arizona and whatnot. Obviously, that didn't work out because he got injured himself. But Tyrone Tracy definitely got to be on the rise. He goes for my RB 46 because he was kind of in handcuff territory before. And now you realize that handcuff potential. RB 19 for me rest of the season. He's in a tier with Travis Etienne, Chase Brown, Jalen Warren, DeAndre Swift. I think you got to treat him this way because if you look back last year, when he took over the workload, we're talking about a guy who was a high-end RB2, mid RB2 every single week in my running back tier list.
Yeah, and I would argue that this Giants offense this year with Jackson Dart, with kind of the life we've seen from it, definitely a lot more upside than we saw last season when it was Daniel Jones, when it was Tommy DeVito, when it was that rotating cast. Drew Lock made an appearance at one point. Like, it was just kind of a mess of an offensive situation. We did see flash weeks, though. 22.7, 26 points, 19.3, 15.4, 14.5. Like when he was operating as the Giants RB1 last year, there was a reason why we were the guys taking him in the 9th round. We were saying, hey, this is an ambiguous backfield, but Tyrone Tracy's the guy that we want to hitch our wagon to. Now, obviously, in hindsight, that take didn't materialize the way we wanted it to, but the same thoughts we thought of Tracy coming into the year are the same thoughts we have on his talent.
Yeah, well, and I said this about Rachaad White when Bucky went down. It's nice that when you have the handcuff who's already been the starter, who can carry a workload, who's been productive before. Like after, I think it was, week 5's game last year against the Seahawks is when Tracy took over the workload. From that point onward in 2024, he had 13.2 points per game, and it was the RB19 from that stretch. So we're talking about a guy that was legit. Like I have him ranked RB19. That's exactly where he's ranked. And like you said, the offense you could argue is better. There's still very strong whispers that they could trade for Chris Olave or Jalen Waddle or one of these wide receivers. So I do think that the Giants, maybe more so than any other team, are in the wide receiver market to add a guy like Olave, especially after another brutal loss in New Orleans. I think he could be on the move and could be headed to New York. So Tracy, yeah, you got to feel pretty good if you were stashing him, because this is a guy that has now realized his upside. He's the handcuff that you were stashing, and he is going to be the starter the rest of the year.
And speaking of realizing his upside, Corey, the guy that we said was a sleeper coming into the NFL draft, the guy that we said, hey, he's a day 3 profile, but if he really gets developed the right way, we're looking Juwan Johnson. We're looking, who was your comp officially?
My comp was Hakeem Butler because I kind of went for the floor of it, but in the write-up, I said like he's Darren Waller if he hits.
Yeah, well, exactly. We said Juwan Johnson, Hakeem Butler, but the ceiling is Darren Waller. And it looks like we got a Darren Waller regen on our hands, because when we look at Oronde Gadsden Jr., he was my tight end 12 coming into the week. I just wanted to see it one more week. I kind of wanted to see what we had with him. But after running 91% of the routes and commanding 21% of the targets on Thursday night, he is in my tier 1 rest of the season. He is a top 6 tight end for me. I view him amongst the likes of, if I look at my rankings, George Kittle, Brock Bowers, obviously with the context that he's going to be out for this week's bye. Like, I think that's how we have to be treating Oronde Gadsden Jr. Because if we had full confidence that this is what we're going to be getting rest of the season, he should probably be tier 1 tight end on his own.
Yeah, I have him at 8, so he's a little bit further down for me. I do prefer George Kittle and Bowers, like you mentioned. I also have Jake Ferguson ahead of him. I do still have Sam Laporta 1 spot ahead of him, but Gadsden, I mean, you could definitely argue that I shouldn't have Sam Laporta 1 spot ahead of him.
Points per game.
Here's the tiebreaker for me, is that Laporta has had his bye and Gadsden has not.
I don't think we could do Laporta. I understand, like, okay, Kittle, he's shown tight end 1 upside before. Jake Ferguson is averaging 15 points per game. Brock Bowers, obviously, we know that's fine. Sam Laporta is averaging 10 points per game, dude. Like, I cannot rank him above Oronde Gadsden given what we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, he also has a 91% snap share on one of the best teams in the league, though. Like, sure. And this is an offense that doesn't have, aside from St. Brown, anybody operating as a dominant receiving threat. Jamison Williams not really commanding the targets and that kind of thing. Again, I view them both. I view them similarly. I realize that Gadsden is coming off of 2 really big games, so it seems like a hot take for me to say that. But I do think we're going to have a stretch of games where Laporta has 2 really big games in a row.
Maybe, but if Laporta had any of Gadsden's last 3 performances on his resume this year, we'd be having a different story on him.
He was 20.2 points in week 5, 16.5 points in week 6. Those are top 4 finishes the last 2 games before the bye. And then in week 7, he had a bad game against Tampa Bay. I don't know. With this territory of tight ends, I think they're both spike week guys who are very reliable every week starters, but they are going to disappoint you at times. It's just that Gadsden, since he's been the starter, has not had a single down game yet. If he has another great game in a row, obviously, I'm going to keep rising him.
If he keeps playing like this, dude, he might end up being like the tight end 2 in Dynasty, tight end 3 in Dynasty. Like that's the track he's on right now. And I understand, okay, we got to play cautious. We got to wait and see. It's only been 3 weeks as starter. Dude, I think I've seen enough. Like
I've seen enough to say he's an every week starter. I have not seen enough to say that he was convincingly above Sam Laporta. They're in the same tier. I have him 1 spot behind. They're in the same tier for a reason. If you wanted to argue him over Laporta, that's fine. But yeah, 2 weeks from now, he might be over the likes of Jake Ferguson and George Kittle and Brock Bowers, potentially Tucker Kraft, maybe even Tyler Warren. Like we could be talking about a dude that is continuously rising week after week if he continues to do it. I just think that Chargers offense got a lot of deep receivers in it, a lot of pass catching weapons. There's going to be games where Oronde Gadsden has 4 points.
Maybe, but let me counter with this. He ran 91% of the routes, the second on the team to Lau McConkey.
Okay. I mean, there's plenty of tight ends that run 90+% of their team's routes.
No, I get that, but you're mentioning the overall usage on the offense. Like, I would argue he's the number 2 on the offense today.
Maybe. Yeah, he might very well be. I'm just saying that there's probably going to be games coming up where he's not an absolutely dominant guy. Anyways, he's tight end 7 for me. He's tight end 6 for you. This is an every week starter going forward, and you should feel
Good
great.
conversation to have, though. I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering.
Yeah, because some people might be wondering, should I sell high on him? Should I use him to buy low on Brock Bowers? Should I use him to buy low on George Kittle or something like that? I would say, like, if you gun to your head right now, you got to pick one. One of those three. Is Gadsden number 3 for you, or is he number 2, or is he number 1 for you between Bowers and Kittle?
Bowers at 4, Ferguson at 5, and honestly, with the context of how the Cowboys targets are going with Pickens and Lamb on the field, I have Gadsden over Ferguson the rest of the season. I have Brock Bowers at 4, Gadsden at 5, Ferguson at 6, and Kittle at 7.
Yeah. Again, gun to my head right now, I would still rather have Kittle and Bowers, given the track record of their careers that they've had and the fact that they're still elite tight ends, in my opinion. Bowers should be healthy coming off of the bye. Kittle, now that the Brock Purdy, like Kittle hasn't had his quarterback since he's been back. Brock Purdy should be back this week. Ayuk's practice window's getting opened up. I think the offense will really improve. And Houston's defense is no joke, man. Like they might have the best defense in the league. So I think that Kittle is a guy that I'm going to be maybe talking about on Wednesday as a buy low candidate. Chase Brown is another riser for me. Mainly just because we're starting to see the efficiency that we saw down the back half of last season, where last week against the Steelers on Thursday night, he rushed for 100 yards. And then this week, we finally saw like the fantasy day where he goes 25.5 PPR points, top 5 running back so far on the week. The snaps and the usage is still like not exceptional, because Samaje Perine also did some damage in this game and also is getting, the 2-minute drill snaps, the long down and distance snaps. This is actually the first time all season in which Chase Brown did not record a long down and distance snap. So this is a situation maybe to monitor and maybe to sell high on potentially. But I do think at the very least, we were talking about Chase Brown about 3 weeks ago as a guy that is an unreliable back end RB3. And now I think you got to at least talk yourself into him. With Joe Flacco being there, he's at least a mid to low end RB2.
It is hilarious. Again, pending what happens with Pacheco tonight, but like how the market, like consensus, the market feel on them has changed so much in these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, it's changed quite a bit. And I think if you have Chase Brown, you felt it. You go, okay, this guy looks so much better with Joe Flacco than he did with Jake Browning. And you have to feel confident that Chase Brown is at the very least a guy that you feel comfortable throwing out in your RB2 spot every week.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I mentioned this to you, but that one league that I was in where a couple weeks ago was looking completely dire, and I might actually still somehow lose this week despite scoring the first or second most points in this league. But like my running back core was Chase Brown, Woody Marks, Tyrone Tracy, Isaiah Davis. Like you're looking at it on face value 2 weeks ago and you're like, wait, that's such a bad core, because obviously I lost Benson and I lost Amari and Hampton. But now you look at it now, it's like, okay, Marks, Brown, Isaiah Davis, Tracy, like that's actually a serviceable group.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some people might look at the usage here and be like, why are we putting Chase Brown at RB 18? Because that's where he moves up to for me rest of the season. My question to you is, can you name the running backs that are after him that you would prefer? Because for me, it's like, okay, Tracy, maybe you could argue Tracy's above him because Tracy, we've seen the workload and that kind of thing. Swift just split basically 50-50 with Kyle Menenga.
I would put Swift higher.
And that's fair. I think that's totally fair given how he's played, but he is not really getting the workload either. Travis Etienne, we saw before the bye, he wasn't really getting the workload. Maybe that'll change after the bye. Chuba Hubbard's in a backfield by committee. J.K. Dobbins just had R.J. Harvey snipe him 3 times. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's in a backfield committee. David Montgomery's in a backfield committee. Alvin Kamara is in a backfield committee. Devin Neal played like half the snaps this week. Kenneth Walker, again, maybe that would be the one guy that you'd be like, yeah, if Kenneth Walker hits his ceiling, he'd be above Chase Brown, that kind of thing. But as of now, we can't project that until it actually happens. So for me, it's like, yeah, the RB2 land, especially like back end RB2 land, is pretty desolate. So anybody who has good weeks and good performances is going to move up to the top of that group. And Chase Brown's the kind of the prime example of what that looks like. Yeah,
no, I agree with you there. It's a wasteland. Realistically, once you get outside of the top even 15 running backs, it feels like, is that outrageous to say? Even outside of the top 15 running backs, it gets gross.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at as a society with this group.
Who would have thought? That's the economy that we live in. But I'll go on to my third player here. And my third player, another tight end. Spoiler alert, I already talked about Gadsden. He is not the only tight end on this video, because we have to have a discussion about Tucker Kraft. And we have to address the fact that coming into the week, Corey said he was in tier 2.
Yeah, and what I think about him doesn't really change what I think about him. It's just that when it hits, it's going to look great. Obviously, Jordan Love is playing super well right now. Jordan Love has a group of receivers who all serve a purpose, but none of them are target commanding alphas. We saw Romeo Doubs, a couple good weeks in a row, but he is a little bit more inconsistent than maybe some people thought. Christian Watson comes back, makes some big plays. Matthew Golden still looks like a rookie. Jaden Reed probably not back for at least another month or two. Tucker Kraft is the number one receiver of this team, and this is a really good offense, and there's a really good team, and this is a guy that we need to treat, as myself specifically needs to treat, as a top 3 tight end rest of the season. And unless Brock Bowers, George Kittle bounce back completely, I don't really see him being dethroned from a top 3 tight end, because what I said about him going into the week was he's kind of like George Kittle. He's going to have his big weeks. He's going to have his down weeks, but the big weeks are really big, as we saw this week, 33.3 points. And also, they're also a lot more consistently big than small.
Yeah, I mean, with Tucker Kraft, he is my tight end 2 rest of the season. He's currently tied for the tight end 1 in PPR points per game. I do prefer McBride. McBride obviously just had his bye, so moving forward, both of them are going to be without their bye. McBride slightly more consistent. I have McBride a little bit higher, but with all that being said, with Tucker Kraft, he is my tight end 2 with the fact that he's scoring 16.2 points per game. We look at his last 3 games in particular, top 12 tight end, top 8 tight end in the last 2 weeks in particular, and he's averaging a 21% target share this year. On top of already being, I don't even think this is arguably, he is inarguably the best rack tight end in the league. It's not even close.
Yeah, and you pretend that I'm low on the guy. Well,
I'm joking.
My most amount of entry fees of any tight end on Underdog goes to Tucker Kraft. So I am financially benefiting from this breakout as well.
Yeah, we're set. I mean, realistically, I think it's going to keep being a rotating cast of wide receivers. I think we trust Romeo Doubs the most. Matthew Golden, a little bit disappointing. We expected maybe the breakout on that Sunday night game. 1 catch for -1 yards, I think, is what ended up being the stat line there.
He's like he's a stash at this point. You can't put him in your lineup.
And Christian Watson comes out, shows signs of life. But realistically, I think even when Jaden Reed comes back, it's probably going to be a 4-man rotation with Doubs being the main primary X. Tucker Kraft is the number 1 threat in this passing game, and I don't think it should be even arguable.
Yeah, and I still think that we're looking maybe towards the fantasy playoffs if Jaden Reed gets back on the field. He had 2 major injuries. He's technically eligible to come off of IR right now, but I don't think he's going to be back. It would shock me if Jaden Reed's back on the field before week 14.
I agree. That's what it's come down to with Jaden Reed. And if that's going to be the case, Tucker Kraft, we saw with Jaden Reed being that vertical slot wide receiver, being used in space, being used in the yak game, Tucker Kraft is actually being used in that capacity. Now, obviously not the vertical shots like Jaden Reed represented, but getting him in space, getting him those screen targets, letting him just rumble after the catch. He is such a nightmare to try to take down in the open field. That's what we learned. I thought, out of his 143 receiving yards, I think 130 of them came after the catch.
Yeah, the Sunday Night Crew had a stat about that I saw as well. That was it was basically just all yards after catch plays. Yeah. And there's one Packers beat writer that wrote an article saying he's estimated maybe back by week 10 or week 11, Jaden Reed, but I think that's a pretty optimistic projection at best. But I have a lot of Jaden Reed bags in best ball, so I'd be okay with that. Bo Nix got to be on the rise as well, because after back-to-back, what is he? Was he QB? Okay, no, he was QB5 this week, but QB1 overall the week before that with a 40 bomb against the Giants. Bo Nix this season is averaging 24.5 points per game. Now, there's a little bit of lipstick on the pig, in the last 5 games, he's averaging 24.5 points per game and 20.8 overall in the season as the QB5. There's a little bit of lipstick on the pig for him because he's had some really bad games and some really great games. So he's been kind of the prototypical best ball quarterback where you're not using the bad weeks, but you're getting the great weeks. But at the same time, quarterbacks outside of the top 3 to 5, that's kind of what you want. You kind of want the guy that wins you a week single-handedly. So Bo Nix, he's got to be on the rise because he finishes a top 8 quarterback in fantasy last year as a rookie. And now, with the way that Franklin's coming along, we saw Pat Bryant catch his first NFL touchdown. Evan Ingram is healthy now. He's starting to play a little bit better. And of course, Cortland Sutton is doing his thing. Marvin Mims actually left with a concussion. You have to feel pretty good about Bo Nix going forward. He's running the ball and he's throwing it a lot better.
So it's funny because I also have my quarterback 8. You mentioned he's quarterback 12 to 8 in your rankings. I believe that's the same rise he did for me. The way I view it, again, and this is assuming that Jaden Daniels is healthy, but the way I kind of view it right now is, Dak had his bad week, but there's 7 quarterbacks that I feel confident are week in, week out starters. Daniels, Prescott, May, Hurts, Jackson, Mahomes, Allen. Jackson Mahomes. Hey, there we go. Bo Nix comes at 8 because when he has the good matchup, it's so predictable that he'll do well.
Yeah.
When he has the bad matchup, it's so predictable he's going to do bad. So it's if he can be the top of the streaming quarterbacks, and in the bad matchups, you just pick up another option. In the good matchups, you throw him out there. You're going to get Bo Nix when he's scoring these 20, 25, 30-point games. Because, again, like, I don't want to harp on the guy. I mean, kudos. You put up your fantasy points, and that's all we really care about when we're talking fantasy football. But holy crap, I have never seen so many wide open wide receivers down the field like I did on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can't cover anyone, so that makes sense.
We can't stop the run, can't cover the pass. Like, this legitimately might be the worst defense of all time.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's like Panthers 2024 bad. Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love is my tier from 8 through 12. It is the guys that are the best streaming options possible, or like the worst starting options possible, if you look at it that way. But yeah, that's kind of where you're at with it. Cause then after that, you get like into the Caleb Williams, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray territory. And it's like, you don't want to have one of those guys as your every week starter. You would rather have Daniel Jones, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert, or Bo Nix, or better. But yeah, Bo Nix got to be a guy that if you picked him up off of waivers, because he was dropped after like week 4 when he was kind of playing poorly. If you're Badaki and you got him traded to you and you have 2 straight wins on your Flock League resume now because of it, then you feel pretty good about it. Moving into Michael Pittman Jr., a guy that you and I have been a little hesitant on, like putting up higher than he's really kind of maybe deserved to be. But
I changed that. He's wide receiver 16 for me rest of the season. Like, I could keep saying, hey, Michael Pittman, like he's a steady Eddie, but is he ever going to be the reason you win your week? Well, I'll tell you right now, he's one of the reasons why Avery beat me in the fucking Flock League this week. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I got him as wide receiver 19 right now, and he was notoriously kind of living in that back end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 territory. And now I think I got to put some respect on his name. Hey, odd numbered years, man. Odd numbered years. This is Michael Pittman's game. He's always a top 24 wide receiver in odd numbered years.
Do not draft him when he's a top 40 pick next year.
No, he will be carried. Josh Downs will be the way better pick. But again, another one of these guys that I feel like I've been low on. But then when I look at my underdog exposure and realize I got 15.4% of him in like my 5th, 6th most highest entry fees for the wide receiver position, then I'm like, okay, I'm glad I drafted a lot of Michael Pittman.
So it's funny enough, it was very similar to me because I want to check what my exposure on Pittman is, because he felt like one of the I have like 350 invested in him over market. He was one of the only like salvageable 9th round clicks, it felt like.
Yeah, because like, what was I going to pick? Keon Coleman instead? Like, there was no other like guys that I liked in that territory. And
that was
of course, you know me, like I was drafting the piss out of Daniel Jones. So I'm just grateful that I got a lot of Michael Pittman splashback as a result. I mean, I guess technically I had to take Pittman first, but he was just, like you said, he was just one of those guys that I was like, yeah, he was just like probably not supposed to go there in terms of his overall ADP, but 15 PPR points or more in 6 of his 8 games this season. That's really consistent play for a guy that you probably drafted or picked up or whatever in like the 8th, 9th round, who was like a bench player or supposed to be a bench player for you. The Colts are obviously for real, even though their schedule is 27th among wide receivers rest of the season. So it's not very good sledding for the rest of the year. But my goodness, this Colts offense is on fire. You want pieces of this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's playing so well. It's funny you mentioned the name Keon Coleman. It's like, well, Michael Pittman's the better wide receiver, but Keon Coleman's playing in the top offense. Like, well, actually, Indianapolis is the best fucking offense in the league now.
Yeah, not to mention Michael Pittman had like a massive like track record advantage over Keon Coleman as well.
Can I mention one honorable mention, Riser, because we're talking about the Colts? There is no reason why I shouldn't have had Jonathan Taylor as my number 1 player rest of the season. He's averaging nearly Christian McCaffrey 2019 numbers right now.
Yeah, I finally
did it.
I finally dethroned Bijan Robinson in my running back rankings. I still do have Puka Nacua as my 1 overall, though.
Totally reasonable. Again, like I have Puka, so I want to move Puka back there, but I mean, it's hard not to put JT there after how he's been playing. Like,
to be fair, he does not play the Titans again for the rest of the year, and he has 6 touchdowns against them.
He's got 15 touchdowns in 8 games. Like,
he's a machine, dude. He's a machine. And there's still the worry that he gets banged up, because that's Jonathan Taylor's MO for the last couple of years. But like, you just gotta hope and pray that doesn't happen.
Yeah, realistically, if you're you wouldn't be anti-JT at this point. But let's say, like, this offseason, you didn't draft a lot of JT, and maybe we were part of the reason earlier in the offseason because we were lower, but we got progressively higher as the offseason went along. But if something were to happen, we got to acknowledge the fact that it was a terrible process. Like, this guy is legitimately having a generational season. This guy's having a 2006 LT level season.
Yeah, this is like he's nearly 5 points per game better this year than he was in 2021 when he was the RB1 overall that year.
Yeah, dude. Like when you're putting a guy in your lineup consistently and you're getting 25 points with these 37-point splash weeks, like again, this is the Pittman case, but I did have to mention JT because he deserves his flowers, man. He really does.
Yeah, he's been a beast. Staying in that same game, you have Tyjae Spears as a riser who in
Yep.
2 of the last 3 games has outsnapped Tony Pollard. Now, you might be
Yeah.
like, oh, well, that was because it was a negative game script. It's like, well, can you point to any positive game scripts for the rest of the season for the Tennessee Titans? Because Mike McCoy, I don't know if you can fire interim coaches, but he should get fired.
He's horrific. And a part of it, too, we did see the route share bounce back up. Down in week 7 for whatever reason. I don't know what the case was. The snaps across the board, rush attempts peaked in that week somehow. Like, I don't know if they wanted to get him involved in terms of the carry game more that week. I don't know
No one knows what they're
is.
doing.
I don't think they even know what they're doing, but we do see the utilization score 60 plus in 2 of these last 3 weeks. And in these 3 weeks, 11.1 points per game, the RB20. I'm not going to go out there and say, hey, you're going to plug in Tyjae Spears right now going into week 9, and you're going to feel great about him in your lineup. But I do think he needs to be a riser, RB38 to RB33 in my rankings. And if this trend keeps going and he becomes the RB1 on this team, it's easy to see him having that Tyrone Tracy level type of rise.
Yeah, not to mention too, like with Scadaboo going down, Judkins getting hurt now on bye, Saquon getting hurt now on bye. There were some players that got banged up at the running back position this week, which is really the first time all season that that's happened. Generally, the running back position, other than like James Conner and Amari and Hampton, had stayed healthy for most of the year. Yeah, like Tyjae Spears might be on waivers for a lot of you guys. You might be able to pick him up for nothing, and he is definitely like a top 35, top 40 at worst running back for the rest of the year because this is a dude that has legitimate appeal. Like you look at the matchup for Tennessee, if they're 7-point underdogs, you could probably throw Tyjae Spears out there, assuming he'll catch 4 or 5 balls.
Yeah, and who knows, man? Like the trade deadline is going to be happening. Tony Pollard's a veteran player that has no dead money after the year. Like, could a contending team that needs a veteran running back to take carries for them realistically send the Titans a 6th-round pick to get him?
I'd be surprised if they weren't shopping him because they have absolutely, he's just a progress stopper for them at this point. So like you might as well, like if the Texans are like, we can't run the football at all, like we'll send, I guess division rival, but it's Tony Pollard. I don't think they really care that much. Like there's teams out there that could use running back help. And maybe the Giants would be in the market for a running back now without Cam Scadaboo. Maybe, some of these other teams, Washington, the Chiefs, some of the teams we brought up as potentially in the running back market could go out and make a move for one. So yeah, it's possible that Tony Pollard would get traded. I think it's more likely that Spears could just win the backfield outright, or at least be a 50-50 timeshare guy getting the majority of the receiving work on a team that might not win a game for the rest of the year. So, this is a brutal team.
So let me mention this to you. Okay. We'll do 2 possible scenarios. We'll do this scenario. Tony Pollard gets traded tomorrow. Where do you think Tyjae Spears in your rest of the season rankings?
I think he would probably go relatively around the range that Tracy went, except maybe a little bit after. Like, I think I would, in a vacuum, prefer like a 50 to 58% snap share back on a much better team, like a Chuba Hubbard, a J.K. Dobbins, a David Montgomery, a Kenneth Walker type. Like, I think you'd probably say that Spears would maybe just find himself in that tier, intermixed, like kind of in the 20 to 26 range somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably be like, 20 to 24 for me. And then obviously the scenario, the other one you mentioned, if he just took 50+% of the carries and he maintained this route share, probably a top 28-ish level back. So regardless though, if you can get him for bargain bin type of prices, I'm sure maybe he's in your waivers in your league. Maybe he's a bench stash for a lot of people. Maybe you can tack him on at the end of the deal. Like I do think Tyjae Spears, given the talent level and the efficiency he's shown, has to be considered a riser.
Yeah, no, for sure. So let's talk about the last 2 guys that we have. We can kind of group them together on the same team. Troy Franklin, best game of his career so far, 26.9 PPR points. I'm thankfully glad that I talked about him as maybe the best pickup of the week going into the week, saying, hey, if you guys need bye week fill-ins, Troy Franklin's one of the best guys you can go out and pick up off the waivers and just start him because the Cowboys can't cover anybody. And Troy Franklin, 87% of the routes this week too, which is a season high for him. And yeah, this is a dude that will be high priority list in the waiver video this week. And you could probably rely on as a top 45 receiver rest of the season.
Yeah, he's my wide receiver 39 rest of the season. That's more so an indictment on the position, I feel like, because realistically, I'm looking at it, 87% of the routes. If he can maintain this type of route share, again, it is volatile. We have seen it spike and then drop like it did, week 3 and then weeks 4 to 7. Like he did not get remotely the same type of route share. But if he can maintain at above an 80, 85+% route share and be the number 2 vertical shot wide receiver for this Denver offense, like I think at the very minimum, he's shown to be a much better player than Marvin Mims. And even though Pat Bryant is kind of mixed in as that third wide receiver, they play completely different roles.
Yeah, not to mention too, like if Bo's going to play like this, you're going to have more than one fantasy relevant option on that team. Like Cortland can't do everything. Like if Bo Nix is going to play this well, then somebody's going to eat too. Whether it's Ingram, whether it's Franklin, whether it's the run game. Like Bo is playing too well for them to not, field more than one fantasy relevant option. The only problem this week is that they play the Texans, who, for my money, are the best receiver defense in the league, and they are according to adjusted fantasy points allowed on Draft Sharks here. So, as much as Troy Franklin's going to be a great pickup this week, you might not want to start him right away.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you're completely decimated. I mean, funny enough, week 8 was the Buymageddon week. So if you were to start Franklin, it probably would have been this week, and you probably would have profited with the
maybe sell high on him too. Maybe not the worst idea.
Sell 9 would be a good. Sell high would be a good idea. Badaki started Franklin, right?
He did. Yeah, he did not start my guy though. RJ Harvey, who is the other riser on the same team here. Now, the reason he's a riser is not because he had 3 touchdowns, but that's great. Obviously, you'd like to see him, find the end zone, score fantasy points, that kind of thing. The reason he's a riser is because even despite his snap share staying relatively the same, 27% snap share the last 3 weeks, it was 28% in week 8. He did get a little bit more of the carries, 28% of the rushing attempts versus the 5 and 9% that he saw the week before. Some of it was okay, like it was a little bit of garbage time at the end there. Maybe he got some carries in that regard. Sure. But it's a second-round running back who had a pretty good profile. J.K. Dobbins, a lengthy injury history. I think at the very least, he goes from middle priority handcuff to high priority handcuff, like a Charbonnet, like one of those guys. Because when he gets the workload, if he ever gets the workload, he'll do a lot with it, especially with the way that the Broncos are playing right now. So for me on RJ Harvey, it's more of like, this is the first sign that this guy can play. And knowing that he can play makes him a high priority handcuff. Could he win the backfield out? Maybe JK is just too good for that to happen. It's very possible that that is the case. But at the very least, this high injury risk running back ahead of him on the depth chart, he would win leagues. If JK goes down, RJ's a top 15 running back rest of the season. Like he would be up there with like the Breece Halls and the Quinshon Judkins of the world if JK went down.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more pessimistic. Again, I am at RB 37. I think a lot of the success that he found against the Cowboys, a lot more Cowboys influence. Like I'm not even
probably
joking.
Right about that.
On that 40-yard touchdown, I'm not even joking you. Sam Williams, his number one priority, just contain. You just have to hold the edge. You know what he does?
What'd he do?
Shoots right inside hip of the fucking tackle, completely gives up his contain, and the linebackers on that play, I'm not even joking you, the right guard completely fucking pancake the crap out of Shamar James and the other guard on the other side. So right guard, offside guard comes and blows up Shamar James. Play side guard completely fucking just decimates Kenneth Murray. I'm watching that play and thinking you could literally substitute me or you at linebacker and there would be no difference on that play.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It was horrible.
You guys were starting Key and Peele names at corner this week too. Like
Tyquez Bridges was picked up off the practice squad 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, like it was bad. It was bad for the Cowboys defense. So again, don't take too much away from RJ Harvey, but if this is a sign of things to come, and next week we see RJ Harvey play 40% of the snaps instead of 28%, then you're going to want to maybe get him now when he's pretty much still inexpensive. And maybe people are just going to chase the 3 touchdown week and try and sell high on him and that kind of thing. Sure. But RJ Harvey has quite a bit of upside, and we know what happens rookies rest of the season. Maybe he could just win the backfield outright. Again, I think JK's probably do good for that. But we know JK's lengthy injury history as well. So RJ Harvey, this is why he's a riser. If you have him, if you were stashing him, you feel better about him now.
Yeah, I think that's enough on the Broncos. Clearly, they are a better football team than the Cowboys, and clearly our defense is not NFL caliber.
No, it is not. Yeah, not a great situation for the Cowboys defense. It is a great situation for anybody's fantasy players who play against the Cowboys defense. Next up, Marvin Harrison Jr. breakout game next week.
Skyrocketing, baby. He's going to be the wide receiver 12 after a 300-yard performance.
Yeah, that would be fun for my Flock League team because I could use some more heat. But anyways, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Rest of season rankings all up to date. Dynasty rankings, I just did a sweeping update this morning. Daniel will be doing his this afternoon as well. So if you guys need up-to-date rankings, you can definitely check us out over on the site. waivers will be coming tomorrow. Monday Night Football picks are on the YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram already. But yeah, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Peace out. We'll talk to you soon.